allocated to the advertising and marketing expenditure on the P&L. So they used to inflate the top line. Now you don't have the choice. They say show it on the invoice, then we will have to record it at a net value. So has an accounting implication as well. So that's something which we have to then look at.
So because tax on branch transfer, that is clear that we have to pay the tax on the branch transfer.
On goods?
On goods?
Yes. No change on that. There will not be any change. Sorry, someone mentioned.
Even in the repair,
Yeah.
I collect points at one better to put up 5.
Loyalty points.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think the promotion schemes will go away? The loyalty point schemes will go away?
In all probability, the loyalty points obviously will continue. But the big bazaar of the world will tell you, so if you want this free, please pay me the tax. And this happens in many other countries as well, where they say that we'll give you something free, you need to pay the tax. So it's not a concept which India is introducing. We are doing something which many other countries do as well. What about repairs and replacements? Have a look at this carefully. You might have replacements, you might have warranty replacements, additional warranty, and there is a replacement over there. Replacement of the whole unit itself, replacement of a spare part, and a repair. How does this really change? You need to really apply your mind. I don't have the answers to this because there could be different treatments in different situations. But you have to then take, used to say, is there a supply? What is the value of the supply? How do you put a ascribe a value to it? How do you claim a deduction? All of that needs to be examined. So for your consumer market clients, please have a look at all these aspects. If I look at pharmaceuticals, and you might obviously see import of raw materials and finished goods as a first big impact. Many pharmaceutical companies just simply import. How does it impact your pricing structure? Is there a saving? Are you going to reduce your price? And then accordingly work with it. What happens to your job work and toll manufacturing arrangements? You already saw that there is a special provision which is there for job work, right? And therefore, for this job work or toll manufacturing arrangement, how are you really going to really remodel your business? For example, let me give you a very simple example. You might say, I no longer want a job worker, I'm going to convert him into a contract manufacturer because my impact is the same. In fact, my headache in my documentation is higher if I have a job worker. Because now the provision says if you want to supply any raw materials to a job worker without paying tax, go to the commissioner, get a permission, then supply, receive it within 180 days, I get all these headaches. So I'll just simply tell him, please supply on a P2P basis, I'll pay the tax, I'll get the full credit. So you convert some job work into a P2P arrangement. So all those planning would be required. Stock transfers is fine, no change. Supplies without consideration is fine. Expiry returns and reversals. What happens to this? Pharma, major problem. Because now we are saying that the concept or the law says there is no concept of goods returns so far. They have now agreed to introduce this concept. They said if you supply something, you levy the GST, let the distributor or the artist claim a credit. But if he supplies it back or he returns it, he'll charge a tax and you will get it back. Now the problem will be that if this provision continues and you receive it back, and after you receiving it back you destroy it, then you lose credits. So again, how do you want to deal with this? There may be a double loss or a higher loss. Therefore, a special provision will be required for this expiry returns and reversals. Because otherwise you will have an impact. Value it and then plan for it. Automobiles, levy of cess, biggest problem. What do you mean? We have to levy a cess. You simply said levy a cess. Who will levy the cess? We don't know. Will the cess be levied only by the manufacturer? Does the cess have to be levied by the dealer when he's selling the car to me? If the cess has to be levied by the manufacturer, will the dealer get a credit? Those questions are open. We don't know the answers to them yet. Let us see what comes in the final law. Stock transfers, we have talked about, no problem. Repairs and warranty replacements, again a challenge which you need to look at. Rebates, promotion and discount schemes. Loyalty discounts, buy a new car, 50,000 rupees discounts. You get certain discounts on certain parameters, those certain criteria. How all those have to be dealt with. Reimbursements to dealer network, and all auto companies have this. That they also pay the dealerships for certain things they do. For example, if they renovate their showroom, they'll get something. If the dealer undertakes repairs, warranty repairs, they reimburse the cost to the dealer. If your car came with a defective part, you replace the part, and therefore they will reimburse it. The dealer simply raises the debit note on the manufacturer, they pay for it. Is this a supply? You need to pay tax on it. And of course, valuation is as open, but you have a easier way of valuing it. And of course, large amount of job of arrangement also in automobile sector. You might simply have as simple as maybe just bring your press metal shop as a job of arrangement. You might have even painting as a job of arrangement, which also goes out of the factory for the purpose of these supply. Energy, natural resources.
This kind of a case of automobile sector, where there are a lot of returns or for defects. We call a huge number of cars which come in papers now and again.
Yeah.
That time, so that also it would be considered as a supply because that's actually correcting a defect in the car, and they have used false back. So
you are saying to the extent of the spare part which is used.
yeah.
Well, under the present definition, it constitutes a supply.
Okay.
So again, they have to make certain exclusions, and that's why a law of this nature, to my mind, requires 6 months to draft. Serious legal drafting, not just putting bullet points. The modern GST law today is simple bullet points. That's the intention. It's not even legal drafting. The modern GST law cannot simply be implemented the way it is because it has so many gaps. It just doesn't make sense. So it requires you to tie all the ends, dot the I's, cross the T's. That's not happening. So again, all those provisions, exceptions, peculiar provisions, you need to take a call, and there are no right and wrong answers. You may just take a call. This is the way you should treat it. Provide for it and bring it into the law. ENO. Exclusion of electricity and specified petroleum products. Electricity will be included in GST, but it will be exempted. So obviously, that's not going to be taxable. Specified petroleum products are out: crude, motor spirit, petrol, which is diesel and petrol, aviation turbine fuel, and natural gas. Therefore, if one of your clients is in this sector, what about your loss of credits and business inefficiencies? Just imagine if you say motor spirits is not going to be in GST. Tomorrow, Indian Oil sets up a refinery for 10,000 crores on which they pay 1,800 crores as GST. Right? Will they get a credit of this 1,800 crores? Or is it simply lost because on the output side they don't pay GST? What kind of inefficiencies are we going to bring into the whole system? As of now, we don't have a provision which says Mr. IOC will happily refund this 1,800 crores to you. No one saying that. That provision is not there. But if you're going to keep this out of GST, you need a provision like this. Complicated compliances under dual tax regime. That means an oil company will say GST for lubricants, furnace oil, LDO, I'll pay GST. For motor spirits, I'll pay excise and VAT. Natural gas, I'll pay excise and VAT. That means again, multiple laws. The minute you say multiple laws, multiple ratios, multiple credit mechanisms, and all those challenges continue for them. So again, ENR clients are going to have perhaps the worst of the law. They are really going to have a lot of challenges. And of course, impact on mining operations. Big challenges for any sector which is into mining, particularly electricity. They mine coal, they bring coal from the mines to the generating units, right? Now say your coal is sitting in Orissa, your generating unit is sitting in Jharkhand. It's an inter-unit supply, stock transfer of materials. On the damn coal you have to now pay GST. And then you will say, once I pay GST, you're using it to generate electricity which is not liable for tax, and therefore you don't get a credit. So that cost really jumps. Now what do electricity companies, what are they saying? If this is all you want, we don't have a problem. Because we simply have to make an application to the regulator to say this is the way our cost is there and our costs are going up, therefore you need to revise the electricity tariff. And we have to simply pass it on. So that all gets effectively passed on to us. So that's a challenge which they are grappling with. Real estate, we don't even know the rate of tax. What is the rate of tax and what rate do you want to levy tax on real estate? 12%, 18%, will you provide a compensation scheme? You have the 1% compensation scheme in Maharashtra. You have the 4 or 5% compensation scheme under the service tax law. How are you going to integrate these compensation schemes and provide for it? How do you value your supplies? Will you provide a deduction for land? Now we've already discussed the definitions, right? We said in the definition, services mean anything other than goods. Therefore, land and immovable property is also services. Yes, it is. And therefore, now there is a potential for the government to levy GST on land and immovable property also. They can. in all probability they will provide an exemption notification to say immobile property and land will be exempted from GST. But the minute they do that, for a real estate company, that becomes exempt supply, and therefore your ratio goes for a toss. Because then you're going to impact your credit on the other side. So you will again have that challenge of computing your credits. And when you're implementing, you have to be very careful. What is your proportion of land? How are you going to really take a deduction? How do you value that deduction? And therefore, how your computations come to it. Continuity of stamp duty, of course, we are already talking about. That's already there. We talked about land, and of course, denial of credits on construction services. Bharat discusses with you that any services in relation to construction of an immobile property, which is a works contract, you will not get the credit. And therefore, what about real estate? To say when a Raheja, just as an example, engages L&T to construct a building, L&T will levy 18% GST or a 12% GST, whatever that might be. Now you will say Raheja doesn't get a credit, but then on the sale of the immobile property, they have to levy the GST, whatever that GST or composition may be. So you are really pushing up that cost again. Either you have to then say, okay, you pay only 2%, 1 plus 1, and don't get credits, or you have to provide a credit if you are going to levy tax at a higher rate. So again, that's something which has not been factored by them so far. Telecom, big problems for them. Inter-unit supplies of goods and services. It's a challenge for the telecom sector. What do you mean by inter-unit supplies of goods and services? Today I am in Mumbai, I go to Delhi, I make a few phone calls. Is there one option is to say Vodafone needs to invoice me from Delhi, because that's where for that day the services were provided. And therefore I may have an invoice suddenly which says that for 29 days Maharashtra to Maharashtra CGST, SGST, for 1 day IGST. That's one way of doing it. I'm not saying that's the way tax is payable. That's possible to say you should pay tax on it. The other alternative is that Vodafone will charge me the full amount of CGST, SGST, but Vodafone Delhi has to charge Vodafone Maharashtra for all my calls. So there has to be an inter-unit invoice and they will charge me over here. How will you track? How will Vodafone really say how many calls were made in Delhi circle which were in the other 18 circles across India? And how or the 36 states and union territories? And how will you really track this? And the tracking is not a problem. Even if Vodafone manages to track it, have you imagined what the assessing officer is going to ask? Proof dikhao, kaun sa statement ha? It's not possible. Sorry, your books of accounts are not accepted. Because you are not able to show what is the address of your customer or where that call took place. And therefore you have the other problem of Maharashtra and Goa, which is a common circle. You have another problem of the NCR, which is Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, which is a common circle, where a circle really covers more than one state. So again, those challenges are coming up for them. We covered this. Taxability of recharge vouchers is a little bit of a problem. What do you mean by recharge vouchers? When you should pay taxes? And there are some provisions which I can say. In fact, they have made the longest list of provisions for telecom, place of supply. You must have seen. Recharge vouchers is taxed separately. Online recharge is taxed in a different way. Postpaid, prepaid is again taxed in a slightly different way. All those provisions have been made. I'm sure you have discussed that. And of course, substantial increase in the cost of compliance, which is common for all business, all service entities. Last, I think we are quite in line.
On tax reform.
Yeah. 2 more slides. Then I'll take 5 minutes extra. Hospitality. The hospitality you find a little bit of a gap. I think you must have already studied this or discussed this. You're saying in the case of any hotels or room rents, you have to pay the place of supply is the location of the hotel, right? But they have not gone and provided that for everything. They have said fitness center, place where the service is provided. Then there is a beauty parlor, place where the service is provided. But they are not saying anything about business center. So business center goes to location of the service recipient. So are you saying that if a guest comes into the hotel and he says hotel bill, CGST, SGST because property is here, then I have fitness center or beauty parlor, CGST, SGST because it was performed in the hotel, but business center I'll have to pay levy IGST because he came from Delhi. So again, that's a provision which has been missed. The biggest problem is here is we don't have a bundling concept. So the bundling provision is not there. So unless we increase the bundling provision, you might have a little bit of a challenge over here. And the big problem for hotels, hospitality and hotels is denial of credit for construction. On the other hand, we are having a lot of positives. Lots of positives because you get the credits for all your room furniture, which so far they are not getting. And because you are not paying VAT on it. So they get all the credit for the room furniture. Of course, on the other hand, the composition scheme goes away, luxury tax goes away, and therefore you are really cleaning up the whole system. In fact, hospitality is one of the sectors which at least is my favorite to say, they are going to have life much easier and much cleaner for them in terms of compliances and the cost structures. Media entertainment, similar. We don't know what's going to happen to print media. They are not clarified what they are going to do with print media. We need to wait and watch for that. In entertainment tax levied by local bodies, we need to again say this may be a potential area of pain for the media and entertainment sector. And of course, denial of credit construction related. Multiplexes are going to suffer on account of this. And of course, these also have the challenge of state level compliances. I'm going to take one last slide. Challenges for the government. And this is the way we are. Slide 1, as I said, 4 out of 10 so far. And just to share, these slides have been put together by Parind, who helps me in office. So the graphics are also hunted up by him. Very simple. The biggest problem for the government: a robust ID network, the GST network. How strong will this GST network be? If the network is going to calculate the taxes to be distributed by all the states, if there is a reconciliation issue, how quickly will you really settle that and reconcile the balances? To my mind, a 5-day mistake will take 5 months to reconcile because it's such a massive amount of data. Banks are saying they are having 10 to 15 crore transactions a day. And if you are saying I need to upload these number of transactions and then you need to keep on doing the calculations, how much time is it going to really take? I have one client who says I process 10,000 invoices a day. It's payment of 10,000 invoices a day. And then he's saying, how do I really reconcile this in 5 days when I have to file my return? How quickly will my system give me this dump? How accurate will this dump be? And those challenges are there on the accuracy of the GST network or how robust it's going to be. Second, dual administration. Biggest problem, disputes between all the states. Who will catch the throat of the dealer? Every state wants to lay their hands on it. So to say, there are certain tax departments who are going to work on the 20th because they want to show that we have the right to work and therefore they want to work on a Sunday. And that's the kind of protest they're going to have. Because everyone says we should have the right to assess, right to raise taxes, right to complete assessments, undertake audits, and of course go to the office of the dealers. So again, this is a major problem of your administration. In fact, if this is not resolved, GST is not going to move forward. So I think this is something which they are going to really try to resolve on the 20th when the GST Council has an informal meeting. Training of tax administration. The department has already started training. And actually those trainings started before the model GST law came in. So I really don't know what they are training them to be. But practically, what someone told me 10 years ago, the department has to learn at your cost. Because when you go for an assessment after 3 years, they open the book at that time and learn. And if they make a mistake, you can go into appeal. So that's the kind of environment we are living in. Now, I don't think this kind of a thought process is going to work. They will have to have very rigorous training because otherwise we will end up into a huge amount of litigation. In fact, I was talking to someone who works very closely with in some of the ministries, and they were saying, we realize that if there is a lack of clarity on the law even for 10 days, then you will get into disputes which will go to the Supreme Court, will take 15 years to solve. So on day one, we have to make sure the law is clear. At the same time, they are saying some things which is not in our hand. This state is agreeing, that state is disputing, and therefore some things are left open. So I think that's the federal structure which is coming into play and creating those challenges. And of course, overlapping laws. Now, as of today, in Maharashtra VAT department, we have a separate cell which deals with all issues related to the Bombay Sales Tax Act up to 2005. Now, suddenly we have another cell which is from 2005 to 2017 for VAT, and a third cell which is now going to take up of GST. So you'll have these overlapping proceedings. Very few consultants like me remember some sort of what is VAT, what was sales tax, and I still argue matters in the tribunal. Interestingly, a couple of years ago, I argued a matter of 1979 and 80, where nobody even knew how that law had to be applied. but that's the kind of speed at which we are still moving. So we have those issues going on of the legacy transaction or the legacy assessments and audits which are going on, and of course these have to be dealt with by the government. Of course, amnesty is one way of dealing with it, but it doesn't really close all the issues. So I think that's where we are going to be really, that's what we are going to really look for. And this are some of the challenges that the government is obviously concerned about. They are also tracking. Of course, one thing I'm also realizing, and I've also been told, that the government itself is worried that what is really going to happen in GST, how will our revenues fall, how will it increase. The government is also worried what are our powers to change the provisions of law. If we really find that our revenues go down, do we have the unilateral powers to suddenly increase the rate of tax, change some provisions related to credit? Because otherwise, if we don't have the powers, then we are actually toothless. We can't do much. So again, it's a little political, little revenue driven, but they are also equally concerned and they are trying to protect their turf. And that's why we are seeing all these pulls and pushes which is coming in when we are looking at implementing GST and arriving or driving their consumptions. So I think, friends, this is what I really wanted to share with you. Thank you so much for your patience here.
Do you think that it will be implemented from 1st of April?
Friends, before we propose a vote of thanks, a few announcements. Firstly,